yeah, it just feels really good. So thank you.
No problem. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I love it. I love it when females call in. That's so nice. I love it. You can, oh yes, actually, if you're still listening, Pandemonium, actually, you can rent audiobooks for free through local libraries. The New York Library, the main New York Library, you can rent a lot of books through them for free. So I will check out. I'll put a couple links in after stream, but I'll put the book in the next like 10 minutes. All right, so we have our last caller, guys. Ganlorth 39 from Australia. Let's go. Oops. Hello, Ganlorth. Thank you for waiting. How are you?
You know what? I've been better, if I'm being honest.
Really? Oh, I'm so sorry.
How are you?
I'm good right now. I'm doing very well. I've been on a high streak with everything. So I feel good. I'm in a lot of pain, but I'm in a great place, and I'm mentally can push through it. So we're doing very well.
That's awesome. I am glad to hear that.
Yeah. So what's going on with you?
Okay, so where can I even start? About a month ago, I went through a very, very rough breakup, and it's probably the first relationship in a long time where I was very open and vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And now that kind of ended really badly, I'm kind of sort of picking up the pieces, trying to get back into the regular groove of doing everything that I normally do.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I've sort of, word has gotten out that I'm single again, and I'm not trying to talk myself up here, but a lot of old female friends have sort of made themselves known. One in particular I've sort of been hanging out with a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And she went through a really bad breakup as well. And that ended earlier this year. So I've got my guard up quite a fair bit, and I'm sure she does as well. But there's been, we have been hanging out quite a bit recently. So I'm kind of not sure how to navigate that, or if I should just keep working on myself, or maybe pursue it.
I think if you've been through a traumatic breakup, so the guy I was dating for, I'll give you a little background on me. The guy I was dating for 10 years, we had a lot of good years, but he was emotionally abusive, was constantly telling me I was fat, using my Adderall addiction as control tactics, even though he would be the one buying them for me. And he was constantly manipulating me in situations. So it took us about almost 2 years to fully break up, because I just kept falling back into this constant state of mental abuse. So the breakup itself is very traumatic. And the best thing you can do when you go through a breakup like that, and the best thing you can do when you go through trauma, is you have to heal. Like any type of trauma that you go through, you have to heal from that trauma. And by finding somebody to bond with through trauma, actually, I think is not, even though it feels like it's the right thing and it feels good, if it's somebody that you could be romantically involved with, I think it's a bad idea, because you need to work completely and solely on yourself, and you need to process this breakup. And that processing might be crying for a month, right? It might be like being mad for a month, or 3 months, or whatever it is. But the only way I can say to deal with that is to really remember who you are, right?
Yep.
Things you like to do. Picking up, because I keep saying this, but picking up a new hobby. And then I also think just taking yourself out to do things without trying to go on dates or meet somebody. And on top of that, getting outside and getting in nature. Because if you've been through trauma, what you need to do to get through that trauma is to process it. And if you're not going to do therapy or use self-help books to process it, the best thing you can do to process it is to do some internal thinking, sitting in a quiet space outside to really go through the things you went through. and get past them, especially when you go through trauma in a relationship. Sometimes you have a lot of anger that you have to get past. I don't know if that's how you feel.
Oh, I'm incredibly furious at how everything went down.
Yeah, and anger is one of the hardest things to let go. But the best way to do that is to remember, like, that was the past. So holding on to the past is useless because you can't change things that have already happened to you. You can only progress forward. So why would you let the past stand in your way from progressing? And that goes in hand with like going outside and just breathing and kind of meditating, or the same thing, like I said earlier, like self-soothing yourself, like giving yourself a hug and remembering, like, you know, who you really are and how worthy you are, and that trauma that you experienced because you're being vulnerable wasn't necessarily your fault. Like, being vulnerable is not a bad thing, you know, and you can get past that. But I would say if like you guys start leaning towards being romantic, I would say that's a bad thing, and I would shy completely away from it. And I would give yourself at least 3 months to really just like process everything you've gone through and to get over it.
Yeah, because that was something I was struggling with, because you know, we'd recently gone to a festival together. We're in the same friend group. We're actually hanging out tonight with mutual friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been trying to keep my guard up and not sort of get more involved than just friends at the moment. But there have been little moments here and there
Mm-hmm.
that have kind of, and I also don't want it to be like a rebound thing.
Yeah, of course. Well, rebounds are like, people like to be like, oh, no rebounds. Honestly, rebounds are fine. It's okay. It's just about like where you are in your personal journey for when it comes to rebounds, you know? But I think I would just be honest with her, and I'd be like, listen, I'm not ready for anything personal, and I have no problem talking about some things, but I don't want to get attached. And I kind of feel like maybe it's going that way. So I'm trying to keep my guard up, because you need to get to a point where you're comfortable letting your guard down again. Right. And that's going to take time. That's going to take a lot of time. Like, I think I'm going to be single for like at least a year or two from everything I went through, you know?
Yeah, I feel you there. I'm pretty much in the same boat.
Yeah.
It's very, very frustrating after you put in all that effort and love and understanding, and then it just kind of blows up in your face. You're like, oh shit, well, that happened.
Yeah, you get angry because of the time you spent. You get angry because you're like, I spent all this time for it to go nowhere. And that's where it's like, that's where I said the best thing is to remember, like, it's the past and there's nothing you can do about the past, and you can just only progress forward. And that kind of helps let go of your anger a little bit.
Yeah, so at the moment I'm just taking steps like getting back into old routines I used to do. Music is a big one for me.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back into that, because I had that on hold for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back into that, and hopefully that sort of, you know, getting back into old things, I'm hoping will do the trick essentially in some way, shape, or form.
It definitely will. It definitely will. Like, because when you're in a relationship, you grow together and you become one person. So like, remembering who you are as a separate person is gonna fucking help so much. But I'll let you know from experience, like, you might cry for a few months, and then you also might just progress and then randomly just be mad, you know? And it's okay to like have those moments. But like I said, like having those moments and letting go of them is the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate all that insight. That, you know, this is completely out of the ordinary for me to do. So it was very on the spot. So thank you very much for that. It's really good to have that sort of insight, that, you know, knowledge that you have personally. So
I love
thank
that.
you very much.
Anytime. And then also, you know what? I would say when you're going through a breakup, one of my favorite things to do, like the book I recommended, Pandemonium before, Stop Doing That Shit, is a great book for self-help in general. You should definitely check it out. But also reading poetry about breakups and poetry about like a positivity is always great because I think people forget the power of poetry and how good it is for the soul. And if you're especially into music and you're a music creator, then poetry kind of falls in line with that. So I would definitely find some good poetry that kind of falls in line with the current situations you're going through and read it aloud, and it's going to help you.
All right, that's great. So that self-help book, where did you put the